Good morning, afternoon, whenever you decide to watch this, everyone. I'm Miss Alexander from the River Park Branch Library.
And I'm Kara from the Center Branch Library.
And we're here with this week's comics chat. Today, we decided to just go full on comfort zone, and we are doing comics intended for kids. So stuff that is exclusively in our kids' collection. This is pretty much my specific area of expertise. Over at River Park, I am one of two children's librarians. This is also an area of expertise for the other children's librarian there too. So if you decide to drop by River Park, you have no shortage of options.
And although I am, I guess, technically in the adult services realm, I also used to be a children's librarian. So this is an area that's close to my heart as well. We are going to start with Cleopatra in Space. And this is a series by Mike Mayhack. And it's kind of like an alternative history type story. So we start in ancient Egypt, and where Cleopatra discovers this magical tablet while she's escaping from her studies, and it transports her to the future, basically into outer space as well. And in this society, the society is kind of run by cats, like this huge council of cats. So that's one of the things I love about this book, just the way that the cats are drawn and their expressions are just so great. And they tell Cleopatra that she's part of this prophecy, which names her as the chosen one to defeat this evil tyrant named Octavian. So she's kind of resistant to this because she doesn't want to be the chosen one, but she is stuck in the future. So she attends Yasiro Academy. She takes classes in math, as well as alien languages and combat. And she likes taking combat more than she likes taking her other classes. And even though she's resistant to this idea of herself being the chosen one in this prophecy, she also gets into a lot of trouble when she tries to go off on her own to save the world. And if I haven't said it before, there's cats in this book, and they're pretty awesome. I'm not a cat person, but the cats in this book are just so delightful that it's one of my favorite things here.
Yeah, this is a series that I gave to a lot of cat lovers for a while, at least until Catstronauts came out.
Oh yeah.
And then Catstronauts took over the Cats in Space graphic novel series, at least at the top of my brain, because it's much more literal. But this was a good one. I had a lot of Zeta the Space Girl fans that I could pivot into Cleopatra in Space. The benefit being there are more books in this series than a lot of other kids' book series that are graphic novels. There's 6, I think, still, if not more now. So
yeah, 6, yeah.
So that's good. If you get a kid that latches onto this one, there's plenty more where that came from. And there's a lot of stuff in similar to it that kind of graduates in reading level too. So this is a great place to kick off your graphic novel love if you haven't gained it already.
Exactly. I don't know what it is about cats in space that makes them such a good pairing, but hopefully we'll see some more of that.
I mean, we're going to see some of that in the next book that we're going to talk about, which is Sanity and Tallulah, which this I just found out today is now a series. Book 2 came out last year, completely under my radar. Didn't even know it happened. This is about 2 girls that are total best friends that live on a rundown space station on the edge of the galaxy, who accidentally create a 3-headed kitten named Princess Sparkle, Destroyer of Worlds. And you see it's actually each head. You got Princess, then you got Sparkle, and then Destroyer of Worlds, who doesn't like all that many scritches. But then the cat runs away, and things start to happen in the space station, and they have to shut it down. And the 2 girls think that it might be the cat that caused it, so they have to try to go fix it. So lots of good lesson in here about kind of owning up to any mistakes you may have made or any recklessness. But the banter between the 2 is wonderful. They're just 2 really good, sharp characters to follow. And now that I know that there's a second one, I'm ordering it to the branch right away so I can read it.
And there's kind of more with like the family members too. I think one of the girls, her dad and her brother are like on a supply run in outer space, um, and then you also have like the guards around the station who are, you know, trying to catch up with this thing they think is a beast.
It is a good ensemble cast, and I love the art too. Like you're looking at the cover right now, which is full color, but once you get into it, it's basically 2 3 tone. It's blue, pink, and white. Which one makes it easier on the printer to put together, but it creates anything that might be scary. The pink can offset, and the artists they just were very creative in using the limitation.
It makes it kind of whimsical with that, you know, because the, you know, black and white and red is sort of kind of like a horror uh, mix, like what you would see in like a horror type palette. But
Yeah,
this makes it that this uses that contrast, but makes it a little bit more whimsical.
yeah, it keeps it semi lighthearted because I mean at one point I think they find like gerbil guts and there's like a heck or a dam in there somewhere, so yeah, it keeps it from getting too grim. You never think that the space station is really in trouble.
Right, exactly.
Save that for the teen books.
Mm-hmm. This next book was this year's winner of the Newbery Award. So the
First
Newbery,
graphic novel to do so.
yes. And the Newbery is given for distinguished writing. So it's really great that this graphic novel was given this award. And I have to say that I just enjoyed this so much. The story goes, 7th grader Jordan Banks, he's starting at a new prestigious school, and he is a kid of color. So he really wants to go to art school, but his parents want him to go to this more prestigious academic school so that he can get further ahead in life. And it's really about the struggle between him fitting in these two different worlds, his home in Washington Heights versus the more upscale Riverside Academy. And then also it deals with a lot of difficulties that kids of color face in the classroom, such as being called the wrong name and lots of other things. And there are also lots of different nuances of sort of these differences with cultural backgrounds. And it's not a story that just deals with race, those differences with race, but also with economic backgrounds. So he is coming from a more, I don't want to say a rundown neighborhood, but more of a
Working class.
Yeah, more of a working class neighborhood, and going to the school and not seeing a lot of other kids of color there, and finding that, you know, some of there's one other kid there who is like him, but he finds that they don't have a lot in common at first, just because of the economic backgrounds they come from, and they have different interests and all that. So he's kind of, at first he tries to keep all of these different worlds apart, like his friends from school and his friends from home. But he learns that he can bring them all together and that he doesn't have to keep them separate. One thing analogy I really liked in here, he was out eating with his grandpa at a Chinese restaurant, and his grandpa was explaining to him that, you know, sometimes when we go out, we get stir fry and we get lo mein and we get, I'm trying to think of like another
Dumplings.
Yes, exactly. And we can have them all at the same time. You don't always have to choose just one. So that was a really great analogy. And even though this is a book dealing with such serious issues, it really is a lighthearted story.
One of the things that I really liked about it too is it didn't shy away from any of the nuance. So it of course is talking about race and fitting in a high class, but it takes to task like well-meaning teachers that, you know, oh, I've got a kid of color in my class. I bet I got to suggest this, 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 and this. And it shows you that sometimes the kids are even smarter and hip to that already. Like,
Right. They kind of
like,
see through it.
yeah, he one of the jokes he has with the other kid of color in his school is they each call each other by stereotypical black names, the wrong ones, and one of the teachers thinks that they're like trying to be offensive, and really it's just they're the one way he's learned to joke around with another kid. It's just the way that he can't make that joke with anyone else in the school. And I thought that was a neat moment too, to kind of show like even with the best of intentions, unless you treat some of these kids just as regular old kids that don't want to be at school as much as anyone else does, there's a good chance you're going to get it wrong. He also, I like any story that also has a kid that's bad at sports.
Oh yeah.
Which is a nice thing because he feels like he's pressured to be good at sports too, and of course, no, he'd rather draw. But
yeah, and I like how the drawing kind of plays into this too. A lot of the stuff, the stories that he relates, he does it through his own art, so it's almost like a story within a story.
Yep, you get a mix of styles throughout the book, and it was just so phenomenally put together, and they absolutely nailed how kids that age talk, and just a phenomenal book. Totally deserved that Newbery. Everyone should read it, grown up or kid.
Right, exactly. I would highly recommend it.
All right, and then last one we're going to talk about. So this one is not available digitally. You can get it physically through our branches now, through our curbside pickup service. And it's called "This Was Our Pact" by Ryan Andrews. It's a big book. It's about that thick, and it's really hard to describe the plot because about every 20, 30 pages, it takes another left turn into like Miyazaki Spirited Away territory, where it takes a magical turn, doesn't explain it. Both of the main characters are kind of just like one's amazed by it, one's disturbed by it, and you just follow these two boys on this journey. I'm trying to think of a better way to describe it, but really it is that like that Spirited Away. These two kids, they're just riding their bikes, following these lanterns down the river, and then they get separated from the rest of their friends and meet a talking bear with a really dashing scarf who says he's going on a fishing pilgrimage. Then they hang out with him, and then they get separated. And this is probably the best kids graphic novel I've read in years. It really talks about peer pressure a lot, because the two main characters are so like their parents are friends, but they're not friends. One of them's the really uncool kid that gets made fun of by the others, and so you get that weird dichotomy of like, you know, that awkward age when you don't want to be friends with somebody because your other friends think they're lame, even though you kind of are okay talking to them and stuff.
Right.
So, but what I just love is that due to the magical nature of it, of how it keeps taking a fantasy turn, the art just reflects it perfectly, and it's all done in this blue tone that you're seeing on the cover. Every so often it switches to a red and black palette to give it that more sinister danger, but goes right back to blue, and the artist just flourishes with it, and it tells a wonderful story. And I read it twice in a row, if that's any indication.
Wow, that is as us as librarians, sometimes we don't have time to read anything twice. So
that's the beauty of graphic novels, is that sometimes if you are strapped for time and you want to finish a book just to get that satisfaction of finishing a book,
right.
do a graphic novel.
Yeah, for sure.
So one thing we are going to try this comic chat is we're going to have a link to a list of the books that we talked about, and maybe a couple other suggestions if they are out of stock. So keep your eye out for that. Otherwise, I think we're ready to see you next week.
Exactly. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thanks for watching.
Happy reading.